artistry camouflage.
Yeah, if you're watching, I'm amused that I'm blending into the black curtain in the background, but
For those of you not watching, welcome back to All This Noise.
we're here. It's me, Valerie.
Hey, Valerie, this is Chad.
Hi, Chad.
Checking in.
It's been a little bit.
It's been a little bit, yeah. Well, they don't know that.
They don't know
but
that.
For them,
Week
it's
to
just,
week, it's in the same, just us, but it's
Well,
been a little bit for us.
hey,
We've been busy.
No, we had 2 touring weekends. I was on the road with Knock 2, and you had a wholesome touring.
I had a
little-
wholesome touring weekend.
Yeah.
Saw Adele with my mom.
Wow,
Entirely
Adele?
not dance music related.
I
but
know,
like,
but was that the pinnacle of like live entertainment right now? Other
It
than
was
maybe
pretty
a
amazing.
T-Swift show.
she, it's like she sounds amazing. She looks amazing. Her show's really cool. And she has so many hits. I just love her. She's like one of those artists that like everyone loves.
What's your favorite Adele song?
Ooh.
I put you on the spot.
I mean, I kind of am a sucker just for Rolling in the Deep because
Yeah.
it's just like a classic.
Yeah.
I think I just like really enjoyed it. That's not like an underground hit, obviously.
No. I don't consider any of her hits like an underground hit.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, like, 200 million record sales. They're
Yeah.
just so underground.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable.
so underground.
I told you this. I once had like an ugly cry to Someone Like You. Like I had like a mouth open, like it was really unfortunate, but I was in a very interesting
in a
place in my
fragile
life.
place.
Yeah, it set me off.
See, that's what I mean. She's a unifying artist. Moms love her.
Yep.
Parents love her. Chad, open mouth crying, loves her.
Just bawling. It's great.
Oh God. Anyway,
Did I just say that?
I
out
wasn't
loud?
expecting us to go there.
No, and this is what comes of this podcast. We just, we get people to
We
open
share.
up. And we had a really great guest, Mija, come through.
We did.
Yeah.
We did. It was a fun episode. And I think for anyone listening, we all have heard of or seen Mija throughout the years. So, and you and I both have known her for many years in our various industry positions. And I think it was really cool to catch her at this phase of her career and hear about all the things she's up to and just see how she's grown. It's been really cool, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think with some of our guests, we've definitely heard about them going through like a full circle moment if they've been around for a certain amount of years. And I think that she kind of alludes to this in the convo, but she's kind of like back in her, DJ producer era after having been kind of dabbling in different aspects of her music career. But yeah, I think that people are finding DJing fun again. right
Yeah.
now.
There's that for sure. And I think another interesting thing is, she's been doing a lot more of like controlling her own narrative of like, doing social media content and all that kind of stuff. But I do think it's interesting because this has come up a few times with different guests, but like because we've been in the music space for several years now, we've kind of seen different iterations of eras and people coming in. And she was definitely one of those people where all eyes were on her for like quite a few years around Skrillex and the OWSLA era. But then there was a lot of stuff that I feel like even you and I probably didn't know the details of that she went through. And now she's kind of like sharing those stories, which I think is pretty cool, especially for maybe newer fans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it comes with age and perspective where you can kind of sort of weigh in on those moments in your life, I think with a different, really healthy outlook. But one that's also like informative. I really like some of the things that she said in some of those reels on Instagram and stuff about intentionality, how people handle certain things in their lives and what that leads to. But you don't really see a lot of those doors opening in real time. And you go back and then you can connect the dots all these years later.
Yeah, and I think also it feels really refreshing because sometimes things feel like really manufactured nowadays. I think that's just the nature of, music festivals and certain artists are like really viral and like that just kind of happens, But I think with her story, it's especially very DIY, very like punk nature, kind of like she was really just a kid who loved the music and was a candy raver, and
Totally.
like really made it. So
Yeah, you see a lot of people comment on stuff and they're like, real. So
yeah.
that's super real, and this conversation for me, especially because she had such an instrumental part in helping blow up Brownies Lemonade, a part of our life. So.
Some B&L lore that she was involved in, which is really fun as well. So I think it's a good episode. Hopefully you guys enjoy.
And there will be no Adele postmortem here after this, okay?
But I can talk about Adele whenever you want to. Just hit me up, okay?
All right. And hope you enjoy. Take care.
Anyways,
Anyway, that is what our guest said.
To All This Noise.
Thank you.
It's so fun having you here because when you got here, we were talking about how I haven't seen you personally in a couple of years now, but I feel like I've known you for a long time, and you guys were catching up of the glory days of Brownies and OWSLA and everything. It's nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm excited to talk to you because, like, I feel like we were talking already a little bit about TikTok and you doing story times and stuff, and I feel like you're entering, or maybe you're already in this era of, like, recapturing stuff that was old, but in like a new way for yourself, kind of taking back the narrative of what we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm curious, like, when do you feel like that started for you and why now?
It started about a month or two ago when I was doom scrolling on TikTok in the middle of the night.
As one does.
And I just randomly, I don't know where it came from. I randomly had an epiphany that why am I not making the content that I'm watching? Because my For You page is like all long videos. It's either like story times or like informational tech, nerdy conspiracy, whatever it comes up on there. They're always like really long story times. And so I was like, well, I have a really interesting story. Yeah. Maybe I should just talk about, a lot of things that happened to me. I mean, I'm pretty sure I could go forever with different stories about my career and how I've come up. So I got the bravery to do it. I put a little filter on my face and I was like, all right, you got this.
You can do it.
So that's kind of like why I started doing it. But also like I am in the midst of like putting out a new EP and going on tour soon. And, now that I'm in my 30s, I've just kind of had this big revelation that like, I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, can I cuss on here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. I just don't care anymore. Like, I want to be able to tell my story. I want to be able to like, promote myself and be really proud of myself. I feel like for a long time, like I was always really humble and really shy and like I had imposter syndrome for a long time, so I didn't always necessarily feel like I could be like that confident and be like owning everything that I was doing. And for the first time ever, I feel like I am, and I so
that's great.
I'm getting brave and I'm talking about it.
Good for you.
Yeah. I think it's artists are taking it back. That's one of the positive byproducts of where we are right now with social media. Is that back in the day, obviously, you would have maybe a blog publication kind of interview you. It never comes out the way you want, though. Very rarely will you get interviewed and then things are conveyed. They usually pick the worst thing that you could have said, maybe.
Oh, yeah, whatever's the most clickbaity.
Yeah, the clickbait, exactly.
And so I think that is one of the benefits, especially for artists and creators, is to have the direct-to-audience, on your terms kind of storytelling, because really, at the end of the day, maybe a lot of people didn't even know what your voice sounded like.
No, most people don't. Like, I haven't talked to a camera very many times in my entire career just because that doesn't come naturally to me.
Yeah.
But I do think that, like, I have seen a lot of other artists, like, kind of start to do a similar thing, which is awesome. I think it's amazing for artists to be able to tell their own stories for the first time.
Yeah.
Good.
I think it's really interesting because I was rewatching, a lot of your story times and having been in the adjacent of like watching you come up and like go through those experiences and then like hearing your story of it. Do you feel like there's anything that like as you were telling those stories, was there anything that you were like, this never got talked about, or like I wish people had known more about this that you like emphasized in telling those stories?
Yeah, 100%. I did that. I mean, that was kind of that was another purpose of telling these stories, is like a lot of people knew the overarching broad story, but nobody knows like the little details inside.
Yeah.
And there was so many little like synchronicities and things that just magically lined up at the beginning of my career that, nobody knows about that. So it's really fun to talk about those things. And to be fair, there's still a lot of really small, minute details that I couldn't put in there that I would love to write a book about in the future.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Future book.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, my Google Doc is getting long enough. Like, I might as well throw it in ChatGPT and have it just fill out the rest.
Just do it for you.
You're like, I have chapters. I'm ready to go.
ChatGPT, go for it. Like, go crazy.
I'm sure they do a pretty good job. It is interesting about
It'll be fiction.
Yeah, it just turns into a sci-fi. Literally. I mean, honestly, though, the thing about writing a book, I've thought about it too, because I think, with what we've done and lived through, there is something interesting there. I think the varying which to degree you're able to reveal the actual details or like the depth of which you go into some of the stories just to protect people's privacy and other things is always something I've thought about, and
also like in the time span that we have, like we're limited on these Instagram stories to 1 minute and 30 seconds. That's like basically a tweet if you're telling a whole story.
Yeah.
You know, like how am I supposed to get out all the information and explain it to you in like a cohesive, proper way without like going too fast or like skipping over things.
But I also think it's interesting because like you were talking before we started recording about how, and I'm sure this happens to you all the time, about people who are maybe discovering you over the past like 5 or more recently years, asking you like what was so special about that time. And it's kind of funny because I try and think back. I'm like, if TikTok and like social media was the way it was back then, it wouldn't have been as cool. Because I kind of feel like there was like the mystery of it, right? Like you kind of saw some Instagram posts, photos, like, you know, your hair was a certain color and it was really eye-catching. And I don't know, it was just like the mystery of that, I think, helped to fuel that like people didn't really know what was going on. So now having you do like the look back, it's like such a good time for that because now kids can actually know what was going on and respect that.
Because a lot of people remember. And so they're like, oh, wow, this is all coming back to me. And it's like, you know, they can relate to it because they remember it from the first time and now they're getting it the second.
Yeah.
I think that there's another really big factor, though, aside from like, everything was a bit more mysterious and like elusive.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm fully convinced that it was purely the friendship group that made it happen. Like, if you think about it, in 2014, Jaws, me, Ghastly, Sullivan King, Io, like all these people were all hanging out in this school together. Like, and everyone was putting each other on. Everyone was like super tight. Everyone was collabing with each other. I was going through my emails recently I was going to build my own like mega DJ promo list just for sending out my tracks to like industry people and friends. And I have a lot of contacts. So when I'm going through this email, I'm like going through all these old emails, right?
Right.
I find emails of me sending fucking Marshmello to Sunny, to Wes, me sending Stan Holo to Dylan Francis. Like I was putting on all of my friends to any connects that I had at the time. And we were all doing that simultaneously. So then I think that's how like all these bigger DJs started playing all of our records, and the fact, you know, that we were all just friends and we were always together and we're always posting each other. And like there's like this fandom storyline that can like be written in between the lines from the viewers. And you know, they want to be a part of like this whole, it's not just me, it's not just Ghastly, it's like this whole friendship group that they want to be involved in.
Yeah, I think that's the really beneficial part of like the collective mindset. I mean, this place is literally called Icon Collective, right? So it's like that was like a big part of that era. I think we're much more in the individualism era right now. Collectives, I think, serve a really important purpose, like you're saying, for that. But yeah, it is kind of interesting to like look back at it and be like, the email blast thing, that was something that we've talked to previous guests about. Like there is like a different level of personal touch to getting an email from someone with their stuff. And I know that, you know, that stuff kind of exists in different areas now, whether it be Discord or a DM group or, you know, WhatsApp or whatever. But it's just different. It's just something that only existed in that period of time that we reminisce about now. Like, you know, everything that is pre-technology in a certain point, we always are going to look back and be like, yeah, it was special. It was like we were friends. It's not like friendship is any better or worse now. It's just like in that era.
But I think when all these different people are like small and they're all coming up at the same exact time, it's like you're not just building like a skyscraper for yourself. You're building a whole empire.
Yeah, all the boats rise together, as they say.
Well, we've said also that the other difference is that I think now, because now you're sharing your voice, but I think that is like kind of the norm now because of this attention economy. There's just so much stuff that you almost your voice is almost just as important as your music.
Absolutely. No, your whole facing front, your voice, your morals, what you stand for, like everything matters.
Yeah. Do you think that's like, how do you feel about that? I don't know if it's like better or worse, but like, what do you think are some of the pros and cons of that kind of, for artists, for musicians?
For me personally, I like it because my entire career has been just built on whether or not people like me. So for me, that's great.
That's not what I expected you to say.
I hadn't, no, but I mean, it's kind of true. Like people like in the beginning, like before I even had music out, they were like, oh, I fuck with her because she's a good DJ and like she just seems cool. And then I made music and they're like, wow, this music is cool. Hopefully. But like, I don't know. I feel, what were you saying right before that?
Oh yeah, like if what that is, like the pros and cons of like your voice being so valued now.
Yeah. So like the pros is that you can actually be the speaker, like the representative for yourself.
Yeah.
The cons is the mystery. Obviously, there's no more mystery, and I feel like it's hard to create an actual like superstar personality or like an individual without having any of that. Like you kind of need that mystery there.
Yeah.
Not always, but depending on what you're
No, it
trying to
helps.
do. It really just depends though. Like depends
Yeah.
on what your branding is, what your motives are, how long you're trying to last. Like if you're marshmallow, you're gonna last forever.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
right.
that was the most genius move.
Yeah.
honestly.
Marketing move,
Yeah.
It's a smart marketing move. But yeah, I feel like I've always appreciated that, like, you as an artist and the brand that you have put out there has always felt, one, really DIY in like an authentic way, and also therefore just like very you. So I guess, like, I don't even really know what my question is there, but like I think it's respectable that you're like embracing this side, because I feel like it's just hard. Like, even as a person who's not an artist or not a brand, like putting yourself out there on social media is so difficult. And now like putting out your stories to people feels really vulnerable. Like, do you ever go through that experience?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm so embarrassed every single time I'm making these videos.
Yeah.
Like it's still embarrassing, even though I like the reactions that I've gotten from it, and I like that I'm learning. I'm scripting for the first time.
Yeah.
So that's like cool.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a little bit more confidence talking to a camera, which is nice. It's building up my skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's super, super embarrassing most of the time.
Yeah. That's like refreshing too. I do think that it was like that when you were first coming up, like you said, but a lot of people just like the hangoutable vibe of a public figure or artist, just like if I would go hang out with someone, that's like a classic thing, it's like people used to vote for presidents that they would rather get a beer with,
Oh,
but I
totally.
think that's how a lot of people are now, especially, is like
Mm.
they just fuck with you. They're like, I just care about that more than anything. And so I think that being vulnerable, I think people can also see the merit and the endearment in that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So don't overthink it anyway,
No,
too, because I think a lot of people love that.
I'm not. I do see what it does, like, for for socials, for me, for everybody, and I think it's all net positive at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
you got to keep going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I also feel like it's one of those things where, like, I, thinking just through your story times, like you were talking in one of your earlier ones about how, like, you were really strong as a DJ, but then you recognize you're like, I hadn't like gotten my producer skills up yet, so like I had to work on that. Like, I feel like, I don't know, like, if people feel confident enough to say stuff like that nowadays?
That's the other thing I was going to say, actually, which is
Yeah.
fun about doing these story times, like, so many years later, and not doing them
Yeah.
at the time that they were all happening. I don't think I would have been able to do it at that time, because I didn't
Yeah.
have enough context to understand what was happening
Right.
at the time. Like,
Yeah.
I knew that a lot of big things were going on, but even in interviews back in the day, and people would ask me, how does it feel to, like, to blow up, to get all this recognition? And my answer was always the same. I was like, I don't know how this feels. Like,
Yeah.
I'll
like,
let
I'm
you know.
happy.
I'll let you know in like 5-10 years. As of now, like, this is like
Yeah.
all very overstimulating, and I don't really know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now that I can tell these stories later, it's like I actually have context. I have a lot more experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just puts me in a better place to be able to tell these stories in a
Mhm.
really, like,
Yeah.
authentic way,
Yeah. I appreciate that too. 'Cause
and not being
even-
scared of, like, being like, at the time, there's no way at the time I would have been like, oh, I'm not good at making music. Like,
Exactly.
not when
yeah.
Skrillex is telling everyone you're a sick producer. Like, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
yeah,
also
yeah.
not your responsibility to weigh in on that in real time,
No.
because it's never gonna like age the right way.
No.
Either,
Right.
I mean,
No.
no one
But
is
now
like,
that I've put in the work and I have the catalog to prove it, I'm like, okay, guys,
Yeah.
we've made a lot of progress.
well, yeah, because like I always said, like no one is just sitting around in their green room when they're headlining one of these festivals, being like, "Yo, isn't it sick how rich and famous we are?" They're always talking about, how
Are
they
you sure,
started.
Chad?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like they're
2 or
like,
3 times I've said that.
but people are always gonna reflect on what you're saying that 5 years ago. Like, dude, isn't it crazy that we were like in this thing?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that you had said that really resonated with me was like when these doors or windows of opportunity come up, it's about like the intention that you have when you go through them.
100%.
And I think that only someone who's like lived kind of like a little bit more can say that with confidence. Like,
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have even known that at the time,
Yeah.
for sure.
and there's just like all these moments in your life where you can look back and like kind of apply that kind of thought
Yeah.
in retrospect. But
You're like, oh, that was for that, and that's what led to that, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
put
And
all
that
the
helps
little
your
pieces
story,
together.
now.
100%.
Yeah.
It's kind of therapeutic, honestly, going back and telling
Yeah.
these stories, because, like, I haven't told these stories in like a while. I mean, I tell like a very like Cliff Notes version in interviews when I get asked, but that's like kind of just on autopilot at this point. So it is kind of fun, like diving deep into the back of my brain and like remembering all these different stories, and everything seems like really funny. I get to laugh at everything now. I try to keep it pretty light, but also I think my intention is to, in whatever way, educate or inspire people that are coming up at the same time, and just letting them know, like, you know, crazy things can happen to you out of nowhere if you're ready for it and if you like know how to navigate through it.
Yeah.
If you're just willing to walk through that door, if you're willing to take the jump and sell all of your belongings and move to Los Angeles. But but again, you know, that has to come with like a warning. Like that doesn't happen for everybody. But I do think that everybody gets their moment when their time is right, when they're ready for it.
Yeah.
Truly believe that.
It's like 95% timing.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
100%.
It comes down to that, just that.
It's just luck.
Yeah. And then people always say luck is when, you know, preparation meets opportunity. And
exactly.
And so I just feel like I would love to take it back a little bit because, you know, some people listening to this haven't watched maybe some of the reels or seen the stories that you've been telling. But you started kind of like as a local promoter DJ, right?
Oh, yes.
In Arizona.
Technicolored Energy was my first production company name.
Oh, I love that.
Because, you know, amber is the color of your energy.
Shout out 311.
Yeah.
Still touring
Incredible.
off that one.
Unfortunately, Technicolor has already been patented and sealed by the TV company,
Right.
so I didn't.
Yeah, a little bit before
It was a fake company, let's be real. I had a logo, though.
You had high hopes.
I made a logo.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, I'm not to be biased, but anyone who comes from a promoter DJ background, I think, has a different perspective on the industry. I mean, for me, it's shaped everything.
Mm-hmm.
What's that like for you though? Like, how did that inform, or how did you learn skills coming from that background that you think prepared you for being an artist, touring, and all the other stuff you faced? You know?
Yeah. Well, when I first started going to raves, I couldn't afford to get into the parties, and so I had to figure out, how am I going to get into the raves? So I would start helping the vendors. I would start carrying the ice cream into the door, because if you're carrying ice cream through a door, like nobody's going to stop you. Like they're concerned about this ice cream melting. Like that's the only thing that matters.
That's a good hack.
So that was like my first in, and I became friends with some of the vendors. And then there was a website at the time called don'tstayin.com, which thank God it does not exist, because I was grounded my entire childhood because of this website and the photos that were on here.
Yeah.
Candy kid photos.
The good thing about this website, or like, I don't know if it was good, but there was these forums, like internet forums, and that was my first introduction into rave politics. Like, it was just people like, you know, being internet trolls, but also like internet fighters, like. And it was just Phoenix and the UK that used this. So it was like a bunch of Phoenix people fighting with each other. And then every now and then, like, we'd get like a raid of people from the UK that just wanted to fuck with us and like swarm in and like ruin all of our threads. And we're like, okay, start over. But that's where
British invasion.
That's where I learned, literally.
Sorry to derail you.
That's so funny. That's where I learned like the politics, how things worked, what date stomping was. Because at the time, there wasn't enough. You know, you can only have one party per day, 2 parties per weekend max. Like, otherwise, if you put something on the calendar, like, that you're an asshole for date stomping somebody else. So, like, there's, like, rules and stuff. And I learned all the different roles that it took to be in the party. And I kind of navigated around befriending people, helping them, learning that, until they had me handing out flyers for them when I was, like, 16, 17. Like, and I loved it. I wasn't getting paid for it. I just, like, wanted to be a part of everything. And so by the time that I was about to turn 18, it was like the end of my high school graduation. And that's when I was like, I'm 18, I can finally legally throw my own party. So that's why I did like the same weekend I turned 18 as I threw my first party.
Wow. What was this party?
It was called Yoshi's Island. It was about 3,000 underage kids packed in a illegal warehouse with some off-duty cops. So it was like not legal, but like we hired policemen to keep us from getting shut down.
Chaperone.
Literally,
oh my god,
that's adorable.
That's crazy.
Yeah, only sold water and orange juice. We hired DJ Ravine was one of the headliners. Sharky was a headliner.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, we were booking like not that big of DJs, but like, you know, we usually have like one headliner at these raves, one or two.
How did you even get into that zone of dance music?
Which part?
Like, leading into you attending your first rave before you even threw the first rave. Like, how did that become interesting to you?
I did mushrooms with a bunch of friends. And then a week later, I did acid with the same group of friends. And then I saw a YouTube video, and it was like this like visualizer with a song called Raver's Fantasy by Tune Up, I think.
I can imagine it in my head right now. I know exactly what it looks like already.
Yeah. Oh my God. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just remember hearing this song and I was like, this is everything. Like, I've never heard anything like this. The energy, just like the synths, like I was just dancing around my bedroom after school, like making candy bracelets before I even went to a rave because I was like, just like role playing what it would be like to get to go to a rave. And then finally I made some friends that I figured out went to raves, and one of them was 16 and had a car, and her mom was super cool, let us do whatever we want. So we all stayed at her house and we would go to the raves on the weekends from hers.
Wow. So it all came down to one YouTube video.
One YouTube video,
That's
a
all
little
it
bit
takes.
of
How it starts.
a little psychedelic in the YouTube video.
Well, the YouTube video stuff is still a thing. That's how a lot of people get into it. I mean, it's not.
I remember so vividly the second I saw that video, and it was just everything changed.
Yeah. I mean, the YouTube videos I watched also were influential. Were like 240p. Like, just like crackling bits.
I think mine is like the Zed's Dead remix that has like, you know, that blue speaker.
Fire.
Yes, exactly. And I like remember so
banger.
Specifically sitting there being like,
that was my G1 cell phone, like the Google One phone. That was my ringtone.
Yeah, because it was
song.
epic.
Right? I love it.
We were all changed.
So
you know, it's awesome though. Like your origin story is how a lot of amazing things started. That's kind of how Insomniac and EDC started.
Yeah,
it's like
it's very similar.
Yeah,
I've heard their stories. I'm like, that sounds like kind of like my old rave days.
Yeah, I mean, like literally, you know, people have told me about like going into a warehouse, it didn't even have power, just like rigging it to like get a light. The
you're like,
power
how
on
did we
illegally.
make this happen? You look back on that, you're like, how did anyone do that?
I mean, Pasquale was flyering all over LA at specific places with demographics or groups that he wanted to come to their little rave called Electric Daisy Carnival, you know? And
flying was literally what it took. Like, I planned my first rave for 6 months. Like, that's how much in advance that I started flyering, at least. Like, I had the flyers in 6 months in advance, and I was at every single party until 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, handing out my silly die cut flyers. They're full page die cuts, by the way. They weren't small or silly. They're very, very
official.
Serious. Yeah. Yeah, and that was like the most important part. And I would just stand out there, be like, come to my party, over and over and over again, as if I'm like Macaulay Culkin from Party Monster.
You were serious. You took it serious. And I feel like for context, it's a good reminder that like social media did not exist back then. So like that was the only way you could ensure that people were going to come to your party.
Yeah. Or don'tstayin.com, our one little website.
Your one little
that's where you
forum.
find them. But if you don't, unless you're like in it, you don't really know.
Yeah.
It.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank God the URL expired.
Oh my God.
It doesn't exist.
I pray. I prayed that it would for so long, and it did. And I was like, yes. Because at first they rebranded, and I was like, oh, no, guys. Stop.
Yeah, please don't. Yeah, I'm glad my live journal is long dead. That would just
oh my
be,
God. That would be so embarrassing.
But yeah, that it's interesting, kind of like that progression that. So the story that you told in the first of your Storytime series is basically when you got invited to play Bonnaroo, and that was you were discovered through someone who like had been coming to your shows or you worked with in the market?
Yes, this guy named Jeremy. He was working with this group called Camp Walter, and they are huge burners. Shout out 420 on the Playa, Walter. And they have an art car. They have a bunch of art cars, but one was called Calliope, and that was like their new baby at the time. And they had signed a contract with Bonnaroo to go and do the after parties, which was like on site. After party would start, I don't know, maybe like 1 or 2, and then go till like 6 o'clock in the morning.
Nice.
Every day.
Wow.
I only hear good things about the like camping and after parties at Bonnaroo.
Bonnaroo is just so special.
Yeah.
It's such a special little farm.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you got up there and they were doing their own thing. You had a closing. You had like one of the last slots.
Yeah, I had this 5 or 6 a.m. slot. And I walked up on the stage to play, and it wasn't like my only set, so it wasn't like that big of a deal, but it was like the last set that I had, and the DJ that was playing, he was killing it on acid and did not want me to play. I walked up and he was like, he just looks at me, like shakes his head. He's like, no. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
And like, I can't argue with this guy. This guy like built the entire sound system on the art car.
Yeah.
Like he was like an authoritative person, like authoritative figure to me. Like I was just last minute girl that like got on. So whatever. It's fine.
You're like, I respect.
So I just like sat out on the sidelines until Skrillex walked on stage, and I'd known him for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he recognized me, but I had known him for a long time.
Yeah.
And he asked me what I was supposed to be doing. I was supposed to be DJing, and I was like, oh, you won't let me play. And then he got up and said, if you play one, I'll play one. So we did a little back-to-back.
Damn, a 1-for-1 B2B with Skrillex. I mean, that's...
Do you remember what you played?
I opened with Shiba-san. Okay.
Okay.
That's the era.
Which was
that
the song.
Dates the era. I love that.
Yeah.
That was like the song of the moment.
It was. That was
Yeah.
That was the song of the moment for a long moment, honestly.
Yeah, no, that song still gets played all the time.
It's a banger.
Yeah, so
Certified
good.
banger.
Certified. That's what I opened with, and I just remember everyone went crazy, and I was like, yes, I did it. Like, I did something good. And then I just blacked out the rest of the time.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
What a moment.
I remember, like, one specific thing that I didn't mention in the story is that halfway through the set, he looks at me and he's like, do you have anything that's not house music? And I was like, no. I had one Kill Paris song.
Yeah.
Back in Kill Paris.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that was the
That's a
only thing I
throwback
had.
name.
That wasn't. He's like, okay, bet. So that's why up until like the very last 10 minutes of the whole thing, it's just pure house music.
You were ahead of
Which
your
I
time.
think is another reason why it went more viral. Because I think if we were just playing like
dubstep
or
Yeah.
like anything, like I don't think people would have been as surprised by it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it would have been so same.
Yeah,
of
no,
what
it was a
going on
Skrillex
at the
house
time.
music set. Like that was actually probably one of the first of its kind.
Yeah.
It's really interesting how it's kind of
Never
changed
thought
so
about that.
much. Now it's like only house.
We're back.
It's like, do you have anything
House
other?
music is forever.
Yeah. It's like the same question is being asked now.
That is
Do you
true.
have anything other than house on here?
So I mean, when I watched that story time of yours, and I feel like, again, like I said before, like seeing it happen when it was going on actually, and then hearing your version of it, I've always been curious to know for you after, that big break moment was happening and, you're getting all these interviews and attention. What was it like for you, like in the just after that moment? Because I feel like that's like an interesting thing, right? Is like you get all this attention as a new artist, which is both exciting, but also probably kind of scary and like nerve wracking in that you're now have all these expectations. So like, how did you deal with that?
Pretty well. I set myself up. Another little strange coincidence that happened was, so when I got invited to Bonnaroo, it was my birthday. It was my birthday party. That was the night that I was DJing and got invited. For my birthday that year, I had gifted myself a MacBook Pro, 2 studio monitors, M-Audio monitors that I still use to this day, and like an MPK, like a 25 or whatever, those like small little MIDI keyboards. This one guy on Craigslist, he sold me the whole bundle at once. So I had literally bought in that for myself the week before I had gotten asked to Bonnaroo. And so then the whole Bonnaroo thing happens and I come back and immediately I'm like, well, thank God I just bought all this like music production gear and like a computer with Ableton on it. And I was like, okay, you're going to take this seriously now.
Yeah.
But I wasn't getting interviews right away.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like I actually came back and there's this one guy who saw what happened and he was stoked. He's a promoter in Scottsdale. Hate Scottsdale. He hits me up and he's like, hey, like I just saw like your back-to-back. It was so cool. I want to book you to play in Scottsdale at this party. And I was like, cool. I'll cost this much. And he's like, okay. And like,
did you just come up with costs like arbitrarily? Because at the time
it was like $100.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I wasn't getting paid shit.
Yeah. You were your own agent.
Yeah. I mean, the Sheraton paid me $200 a night. But that was for like 4 hours of DJing. But that, totally different.
You're like, hell yeah.
Different story. But anyways, I didn't want to go to Scottsdale, but I was like, you know what, take this opportunity and run with it.
Yeah.
And so I show up to the club by myself because none of my friends want to go to Scottsdale. I'm like an hour early because I'm super punctual and nervous about everything. I'm hanging out there. I'm like, this sucks. It's almost my turn. And then I walk up to the decks to play my set, and the guy turns around. I shit you not. And he's like, no, the club owner actually wants the opener to keep going. Oh. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. This is like literally a week after this happened at Bonnaroo. And I said, okay, you're still going to pay me though. And he's like, yeah, no problem. And then I left. And that was my first time not playing Scottsdale.
Yeah, this is the first
So
time.
not
So what I'm
playing
saying is like,
Scottsdale.
it didn't really even matter.
Yeah.
Like after the Skrillex thing, like nobody really cared at that point still who I was. It wasn't until a series of Burning Man, Tomorrow World, and then me moving to LA that really kicked things off. But like the Tomorrow World, the Burning Man was just like, Camp Walter's stoked on me right now because of the Bonnaroo thing. They're like, we're all going to Burning Man. I was like, sick.
Yeah.
But then like the Tomorrow World thing, I like randomly won a mix contest on Mixcloud for a small record label to get an opening time slot. And that was really what did it, because when I went back there, I won, I did the whole DJ set, and then I got to be reconnected with all of these like superstar DJs that I had just met, that I was just meeting for the first time. And it was like, oh, Mija's back. Like, you must be legit, because like we've seen you 3 times now. Like, you must be like huge.
You mentioned you shared an artist shuttle with was it Red Light and Cut Snake? And then you were like, you acted like you had been there before, but internally.
God. I was great. Dying. I was such a big fan of both of them.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. No, all 3 of them are great. That was like a crazy little moment. And they're all playing on my stage too, which is the cute part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like the club kind of coming up in that club atmosphere really kind of gave you a little bit more of a thick skin and like how to, because that's very common. Like people get bumped all the time in the clubs.
100%.
Yeah.
Like
I have a million stories of like times that I was not treated well as a local DJ.
Yeah. Oh, totally. We threw this party at No Filter in Hollywood, and we were the promoters for the night. My friend was headlining, he was playing. And then Dana White came in, from the UFC, and he bought a table. And they immediately put his visuals up.
Oh.
That's so funny.
And then they're like, hey, can you play the Beastie Boys? Dana wants to hear the Beastie Boys. And my friend's like, yeah, sorry, no, it's not that kind of night. And then they just kicked him off.
Wow.
And they got someone from the... Yeah, so it happened.
That's happened to me in Asia before.
Yeah.
Not playing what I thought that they wanted me to play.
Yeah. And they're like, you're out.
I don't know, this room looked really techno. No, it was not a techno room. It was very much a bottle service club.
I think it's good for people to get some people to learn through those means, because it prepares you for a lot.
Yeah, no, it does.
It
doesn't even matter what I learned. Like when the times that I've gotten kicked off, like I was getting kicked off for like not being significantly less cool than I am. And like you have to remember that, because even though I know what I'm doing, and like I'm cooler than like what these people want me to be.
Yeah.
It still hurts your ego to get kicked off. Even if even if you're being awesome, it still hurts.
Calvin Harris got bumped in Vegas once,
Did he?
for not playing. Yeah. I mean, this
Really?
Yeah, this is like pre EDM pop days, but like this happens,
like
very commonly. It doesn't matter.
Just kick him out. You're not doing
doesn't
great.
matter who you are.
Get out of here.
So I would be remiss if I did not mention, because this is all part of the story. So now we're in this kind of like 2015-16 range, but I've told this story many a times. Other people have told, but I've never heard you kind of tell your perspective of this story about Brownies and Lemonade.
I have a pretty good perspective of it too.
Okay, good, because this is important. I've been asked about it many times. How did Brownies and Lemonade kind of get started? And obviously, we had been around for a decent amount of years as local promoters, but it was 2016, I believe it was January. We were in a small art gallery, little warehouse space on La Brea near Pico and Olympic. And
very, very small.
Also, funny enough, the auto shop next to it is called BNL Auto Body now.
Shut up.
Yes.
I know exactly where that is.
You know where that is?
Yeah,
right?
I find all the
Tacos.
time.
Yeah.
They weren't always called that?
I don't think so, or at least we didn't notice. But
that's some serendipity right there.
Yeah,
that's
weird.
Crazy.
So we were throwing this party with a bunch of internet kids from Nest HQ. I think the party was called New Phone Who Dis.
New Phone Who Dis.
And
we all had aliases. We all had fake DJ names.
Yeah, you were Littlefoot.
I was Littlefoot. DJ Mint Limeade.
Yes.
Fanfics.
Yes. It was very internet. But anyway, I'll let you kind of tell the story. So you were gonna come through, and then what happened?
So what I heard from my friend Joseph, he's like, we're throwing the sickest internet party with our friends. It's going to be in a tiny little art house. And we're going to play, because Joseph was the only one of my friends that actually listened to happy hardcore at the time.
Yeah.
Like he was an anomaly. Like everyone else was listening to like normal stuff, and he was listening to hard dance, happy hardcore, like all this stuff that I grew up on. So that's why I really like resonated and really liked Joseph. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so down. I'm going to come through and I'm going to play a full happy hardcore set. And then my friend Skrillex at the time finds out, he catches wind of like what's going on. He calls me. He's like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm going to go DJ at this party. You want to come? He's like, yeah, can I play with you? And I was like, yes, but we're playing hardcore. Like we're playing like happy hardcore, like really fast stuff. He's like, yeah, duh, of course. Got it.
No problem.
Perfect. So we show up at the party and it is slammed. There's like, it's raining from the roof. That's how much sweat there is. And it's in January. So like, that's impressive.
Yeah. And word had gotten around that he was...
Yeah, word had gotten around somehow.
Yeah.
So we show up and we start playing, and he starts playing dubstep.
You're
I'm
like,
like,
nuh-uh.
this motherfucker, like I told you, we gotta play fast. And so I speed up his dubstep to like I think 150, and I like 150s like era, and I bring my happy hardcore, which is like usually around 170 to 180. I drop that down to like 160. So we're meeting in the middle in between like 150 to 160, just like hard. I'm playing hardcore and he's playing dubstep, and I don't know how it worked, but it was probably one of the coolest, most fun sets.
It was perfect.
Yeah, no, it's just imagine just playing like actually it happens now. It's called Speed House. Everyone's just playing their house songs really fast.
There's a lot of Skrillex music faster.
We invented Speed House is what I'm saying.
That's what happened in that art gallery.
Yeah, that's what happened in the art gallery.
Beautiful.
I think it was awesome. It was like
it was such a special
It was so packed that people couldn't leave. I always mention this.
People
were climbing the fence of the auto body shop to get out. And I was like, okay, this is
this is maybe a fire hazard for sure.
I remember I had like eyeliner and makeup on, and when I walked out, it was down my entire face, and I was like, "Oh wow!"
You're like, this is a look.
The photos are not flattering and have been shared all over.
We're drenched.
It's very much of the era.
So you know what you have to do now is you have to go to the B&L auto shop and redo this.
No, we actually should.
That would be the moment.
It's coming up. The
reunion.
Yeah, we will. It'll be a reenactment. It'll be like the Civil War reenactments. We'll just all dress up in mid 2010s clothing.
I'm gonna dye my hair.
Yeah, we'll get Joseph to come back too. That'll be the tough one. But miss you,
if
you,
you're
bro.
out here, Joseph, come back, please.
Hope you're listening. But so unintentionally and maybe indirectly or directly, this kind of was the watershed moment for Brownies Lemonade. So I got to thank you.
Oh man,
if it wasn't for that serendipitous moment.
My pleasure. I feel like I just got to party. You guys made it all happen.
Hey, Tinashe was there, so it's like, you guys brought Tinashe to our busted ass art gallery.
We did another one pretty shortly after the same place, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Never Be Alone.
Yeah.
We did a party right after because it was such a big success. We were like, let's run it back. So we did Never Be Alone, a party for my fake record label, and we made a compilation.
Yeah. And you got to do the set like a little bit more your set you wanted.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Sonny had to tag you back because you only had House on your flash drive the time before.
That's a fair point.
I just remember him hearing all of his dubstep like so fast. He's like, this is crazy. Let's go. He was having so much fun.
No, we've done a lot of great things together with your fuck a genre stuff.
Oh yeah, we've done so many parties together.
I know. It's
that
been
one
a
at
minute.
Union, that was a big one.
Jeez.
I think one of the things that you had mentioned that I kind of took a page out of at the same time is like when the iron is hot, you just got to strike, and it seems like that's kind of like what you did after the Bonnaroo thing. You just use that momentum to kind of keep going in your career. But that's actually what happened after y'all came through for that show is Kush and I, Kush from Brownies Lemonade, sat down and we're like, yeah, like Sonny's wearing our hat right now. Like we have to capitalize on this.
Totally.
So we decided, we made a concerted effort that we were going to throw a party every single weekend at a different venue and sometimes multiple. And we did that for 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So like you were saying, like that door opened and it was the intention that we walked through afterwards. So
yeah, you saw your opportunity and you saw what was working and you're like, let's just make this as big and cool as we can. And honestly, you guys are throwing the craziest parties in Los Angeles. Like years later, now you always have like the sickest venues. Your TikTok is killing it. Like you've grown so much.
Well,
it's so impressive.
We have to, you're part of that, a big part of that. So thank you.
I am humbled to be a part of it.
Yeah,
Aww.
I'm glad that we got the moisture in that venue. Like it was disgusting.
It was absolutely disgusting.
It's a sign of a great party, though.
But that was the fire in which we all kind of came out of. But yeah, it's
very DIY punk culture.
Yeah,
so fun.
Yeah.
And so like around that era, like OWSLA was kind of at its peak. I think that was the golden era, I guess, or the apex of that era. Like, what were some of the things that kind of happened around that time that you recall that were really instrumental to your career?
I think living in the arts district, all of my next door neighbors were my friends. That was really helpful. We all kind of, stayed in the same area, lived in the same blocks, and we'd just hang out and skateboard and go get coffees every single day. Like that was really special. And then also like the studios that they started renovating were really close to where we all lived. So then we'd all go to the studios together, and that's how a lot of collaborations happened. Me and Vendetta happened in those studios with the song Better.
Classic.
Yeah, I'm like, what other fun things? I don't know. I think it was just like the community of it all.
Yeah. That was a huge, huge time.
Yeah.
It was like watching from the outside in, it felt like that too. You could really feel that everyone was actually friends, enjoying what they were doing together too. So that's very important.
Yeah, everything was super authentic. It wasn't curated. I mean, I guess in a way it was curated by Sonny, but at the same time it wasn't fully. Like he would come in and like bring new people in sometimes, or be like excited about certain things, but it was really my relationship with everyone at OWSLA and at Nest that made me feel really comfortable and confident, and like always wanted to hang out, always wanted to like do all these things.
Yeah.
We were always doing group activities together.
Yeah, and LA was still alive. I remember we were all at a Mixed Mag Lab once.
Oh yeah,
100%.
Oh yeah,
many, but
yeah, I was at all of them. So, so whenever you guys were there, I was also there.
I miss Mixed Mag Labs.
I know that was also a good era of LA lore, and I feel like one thing that probably helped you during that era is like, it's almost like because you were, I guess, in that time learning your producer, or like honing in on your producer skills, it's something that you've kept throughout your whole career too, is the fuck a genre, like being open to everything. And I feel like that must have helped, because you were just down to like work with whoever was around and
100%.
whoever you were friends with and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I would get put in sessions with people like, people from OWSLA a lot of times to do like specific things for the label. But yeah, I feel like I was a really pretentious house head before moving to LA, and I wasn't able to make like music that was up to par with, the type of music that I was used to listening to or used to DJing. And so I kind of skipped over house music. Other than Crank It, which was like the first song that I ever put out, and that was literally made because I wanted to make a house song, and David was like, okay, I'll teach you how to produce. But David made trap music.
Yeah.
So like I was like teaching him about like future like garage and all these different things.
Yeah. And this is
and,
Ghastly
like, AC
we're
Slater.
talking about.
Yeah, Ghastly. And showing him like all these AC Slater tapes. And I was like, this is our inspo. This is what I want to do. And so that's where that came out of. But afterwards, when I was trying to do stuff by myself, I was like, this isn't hitting. It's not hitting the way I want to. So I started making like a bunch of other types of music instead. And then now I finally, oh my God, I'm in my producer era, and it feels so good. Finally.
Yeah.
Like every year I'm like, I still don't know what I'm doing, even though I do a little bit more.
Yeah.
But now I finally like, I think I don't know. I think there's something to like letting go of like trying, and letting go of caring, and just being willing to make the dumbest noises, and being like keeping everything really Fisher Price, really simple. And that has like honed me into my producer era and made everything a lot easier and more fun.
Yeah.
So now I can put out house music.
Yeah, because I can imagine, because you care so much about the genre and you like knew so much about it, that like when you're making your own, you hold it to higher standards, right?
Because everything sucks.
Yeah.
That sounds, because you're like, this is not as good as like what I'm used to playing.
Yeah. But yeah, let's talk about your new music, because there's the new EP. And I do like that you bring up that, that kind of like not caring about things vibe, because I was listening to the music, and there is like both like serious tones of like things that you're bringing in as far as like sampling to it, but then like really funny things. Like I heard like the Kim Possible like little ringtone, and I was like, I love that.
Tag. I decided halfway through my EP.
Yeah.
I love
You're
that.
like, it's starting now.
It's starting now. And then the mastering engineer accidentally put it twice in the last song I did, and I was like, I'm not even going to take it out. Let him know.
I love it. It's a good one.
Thanks.
I personally love that so much. But yeah, talk to us a little bit about like starting to make this work of art, and like where you started with it, I guess.
Yeah, I got into this mindset of just like not caring, being willing to upload whatever I make to the internet, like off the cuff. I got into this zone maybe 2 years ago when I started selling music NFTs. Selling music NFTs is literally just like uploading a song on SoundCloud essentially, and then you get some free money from it if you're lucky. Maybe not. But I ended up meeting a lot of like songwriters and a lot of other producers through these people, through Web3, Bloody White being one of them, and Deegan being another one. And those were the two features on my first two songs that I put out. And I don't know what I was trying to go on saying with them. Oh yeah, those ones are a little bit less serious, right? Because I was just like writing beats, and these guys are songwriters. And so for those two songs, I just sent them out to just have them write over, and loved what they came back with, and like ended up finishing them and putting it on the EP. But then there are like, the more serious songs would be the last one I did with Cakes Tequila and Recno. That whole song is like, makes me cry, honestly. Like when I made the demo, I had started bawling, because I was like, this is so powerful because of the samples that are in the song. Paris is Burning. And so I was really, really pleased with myself when I was able to produce a song that actually felt like it gave justice to those samples and like emotively like helped. But I do like the switch up at the end of that song, because like for the first bits of the song it's very emotional, very inspiring, but the last little bit is I want to be a big star. It's like, no, scratch all that, like screw all this like good advice, I'm just going to be the biggest star. So there's still like kind of like a silliness and a lighthearted touch to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do love that. And then I also want to hear the story about a woman walks into the room.
Yes,
right?
A woman comes into the room.
Yeah.
So I found this song in 2015. I think me and Blaze D'Angelo, the GM or label head at OWSLA at the time, were going back to back because he was like my little house music guru best friend.
Yeah.
And so we were constantly sharing records with each other. And I showed him this record, or he showed me, I can't remember. But either way, we became obsessed and we were rinsing it for years. Okay, flash forward to last year. I'm trying to find this song and I cannot find it for the life of me. I can't Google a woman comes into the... I'm Googling the entire poem and I just can't find it. And so I did find, like, I think my friend sent it to me. I did get it and I ended up stripping the acapella and I was like really excited when I did find it again, and I was like, I'm gonna make my own version.
Mm-hmm.
But now I have to figure out like who this woman is still, right? Because I'm gonna clear anything, or at least try to. So I ended up hitting up the producer of the original song called Bone Over Hand by Medicine 8, who's like an old head. He's changed his DJ name, producer name. He's had multiple record labels. Like, he's like constantly like changing. So finding this man was not easy.
Where's he based out of?
I can't remember.
Is it in the U.S. or?
It's in the U.S. Yeah,
okay.
Somewhere
in the U.S. I can't remember exactly. I DM'd him.
Okay.
I found him on LinkedIn, and then I DM'd him on Instagram.
Honestly,
it was a deep search.
Yeah, that kind of works.
But it got even deeper because then I told him what I was doing, and I was trying to get like some information, and he was like, "Oh, that's crazy. That's an old poetry record from the 70s. I have it in my basement. Give me a week. I'll try to find it for you." I was like, okay.
You're like, thank you.
2 weeks later, he sends me the most blurry photo of this record. And I'm like, trying to like zoom in, trying to read it. I finally decipher Alice Notley is her name.
Wow.
And then after an even more extensive LinkedIn search, I found her. She is 77 years old. She lives in Paris. Wow. I cold DM'd her and I was like, hey, really inspired by this poem. I made a whole song. Like, I would love your permission to use your vocal and give you like songwriting credits and splits on the master and everything. This woman has like no idea about any music related thing. She's like, seems like a good idea. Seems pretty, like she's very cute, very quirky. Like, just
I'm glad she responded.
Her emails
also.
are very 77-year-old woman.
Love that.
She's like, hold on, I gotta go pick up my son or something, like my grandkid or something. I was like, why is she telling me this?
Yeah, you're like, you can just put the phone down, but that's okay.
She now has a DistroKid account that I pay $10 a year for her.
Oh my God, that's so wholesome.
So just in case she ever wants to collect her royalties, she can.
She's like, sure, for sure, I know exactly how to do that.
Yeah, I got her blessing. That was very sweet of her.
Wow.
And very sweet of the producer as well to like go through that to like help.
Yeah.
Me. I mean, he was stoked that I was using it, and he was like, you have to let her know. Like, she'll probably be so excited. And I was like, okay, because I was a little nervous. Usually when I ask for clearances, I am immediately shot down with like thousands of dollars.
It's tough. That's tough. Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah?
Yeah.
Well,
but
pay up.
There you go. Music head to music head respect, right?
I mean, like, you got to imagine that there's thousands and thousands of stories of musicians who their catalog isn't in rotation, by a lot of people who be, I'm sure, really overjoyed to have their music get a second life.
Yeah.
Because we're in this age of like, I heard another, Fleetwood Mac EDM cover at the gym or whatever. It's like we're in that cycle.
Yeah.
But there's just so much stuff there that deserves a second life, I think.
Totally. And that wasn't even music. That was just a poem. It's literally a poetry record. There's no music on it.
That's crazy.
I know.
That's really wild.
Well,
she's so cool.
That's so interesting that you're saying that it just like disappeared.
Well, I lost it. I think my computer broke. I had to get a whole new iTunes, and I had a hard drive, but it was on the hard drive, but I just didn't, I didn't find the hard drive. I could go through all my 10,000 songs on the hard drive for a long time until I had to.
Yeah. Well, you found it. Away. That's good. You did a little LinkedIn investigating.
I know, and then I made my little song, and then I got my little approval.
That's awesome.
Blaze told me the other day, Blaze, I still love him so much. He goes, "You're a sick label head." And I was like, thank you, because I'm the only label head of my stuff, and I don't manage anyone except for me. Yeah. But just to be told by someone that like was a really sick label head, that like calling me a label head, thank you.
Yeah.
Tell us about the label.
Oh, it's Never Be Alone. you guys should know because you threw our first party.
Yes, of course.
You did our
Shout
first
out
compilation.
Shout out
You
Bill
made
Auto
us.
Body. Yeah.
No, it's not a real record label. It's just what I type in on DistroKid when it says to put where the record label is supposed to go. I've always put neverbelealone.mp3.
Awesome.
So it's just my music, just me releasing my own stuff as I please. My whole EP actually came out in kind of a silly way. Like, usually people write the EP first and then they like send it off and then they make the art and like, they do everything ahead of time and then they have the rollout plan. But I only had 2 songs that I knew for sure I wanted to be on the EP, and those were the first 2. But I was like, hey, I could write a song a month. So I'll just like make 1 song a month until I decided the EP's done. And then after those last 2 songs, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to cap this one at 4. But I do have like 2 other songs coming out before the end of the year that I'm even more excited about it. That's what I mean.
Awesome.
Like I'm in I'm finally like hitting my mark, and I think not touring for a while helped actually.
Yeah. Are you make music better when you're at home?
100%.
Stationary. Okay.
It's hard to get into like a creative flow when it comes to making music when you're touring on the weekends.
Yeah.
Because like, you want Monday to recover maybe. You're like Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll go in the studio. Thursday, you're back out again. It takes like 2 days just to like get into a flow. And when you can actually catch it, like you don't want to be interrupted. You want to just keep going and writing it for as long as you can.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I've always admired when people say that they can work really well on the road, because I'm like, you must have like laser focus abilities to like block out everything going around you. That sounds hard.
No. But I think that's why it took me so much longer to learn how to produce than most people, because when I started producing, I was on the road 24/7.
Right.
And that was the hardest part, was trying to balance that.
You were like reactively learning how to produce, but you were also, your career was like taking off.
And I would be like, having like touring on the weekends and it'd be really sick, and then coming back and like trying to work on things and just like being so frustrated because like it takes a long time to get through that gray area of like,
it's hard to get good at something.
God, it
takes a long time.
It takes just a lot of repetition.
Yeah, especially as you get older, I feel like it feels harder, because as you're struggling to get better at something, you're like, why am I not amazing at this yet?
Yeah, I don't get it. I'm good at everything the second I started.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works. How has it been for you? Because you've been touring for so long now.
Yeah.
How do you get through that? How do you survive it?
It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. Touring is difficult.
I survive it by not doing drugs, like not doing cocaine, especially. Like I smoke weed, but like that's whatever. That's mild.
Yeah.
I don't do party drugs. I don't do any of the party drugs when I'm performing or even like going to raves. It helps for me now because I have friends in every city. So there was a gray period where it was extremely hard when I wasn't touring with anybody and I didn't have friends in any city.
Yeah.
That was like in the beginning, like the first couple of years, which was equally as exciting because you're getting all these new experiences for the first time. So like the first 2 rounds, it's totally fine. But then once you like start repeating the cycle, you're having a lot of the same conversations, really fleeting conversations with the same people, with different people every night, but you're not actually making like real connections.
Yeah.
So that was a little weird to navigate. But then I got a tour manager, and then everything was fine for a while, until eventually you run into your first DJ existential crises, and you're like, I'm more than a DJ. Like, why am I not happy doing this? And then you start a band.
Yeah, so you did you did your band. You had your band era, and you were doing a lot of live. So what was that? What was that? Part of your life like?
That was me having a massive existential crisis. And you find yourselves on these massive stages in front of thousands of people sometimes, and you're just between 2 little monitors and you're not using any of the space on the stage, and you're like, this just feels like I could be doing so much more. And especially like when you've only been doing the same thing over and over again, it's like I'm not a stagnant person. Like I get bored. I have ADHD. Like I want to know what's next.
Yeah.
And so I had to do that. I think in doing it, it was the biggest growing opportunity that I could have given myself, because when I tell you like making TikToks embarrasses me, but like performing on a live stage with a band all running on my computer through my Ableton with like anything could happen at any moment is petrifying.
Yeah.
So I really like overcome a lot of fear that I had during that phase. And when I came back to DJing afterwards, oh baby, I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking sick. Like nobody can touch me. Like this is the one thing that I have that I know for a fact that I'm really good at, and just the confidence coming back into it.
Yeah.
Unreal. So like I highly recommend anybody who's feeling like stagnant, even if you're at the top of your game, like I don't know, do something crazy. Fuck around and find out. Like you might lose all your money like I did because COVID happens right after. But you know what? It's still worth it because
you're like worst case scenario is already done. So
but you know what? It's like the worst case scenario is that you become a starving artist again. And let's be real.
Yeah.
We are at our best. We recognize those doors that open for us almost immediately when we're starving artists.
Absolutely.
I stopped recognizing those doors as I got bigger, for sure. And then like full circle, and like now I think I'm back again. But like at the time, like before I started that whole band and I was just like spiraling, like I wasn't seeing those doors anymore.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I mean, people told me on the come up, like around that era that we were talking about prior, it was like, you were like, dude, you know, just everything becomes normal. You know, and once things become normal, you stop being aware of
stop being hungry, right?
Yeah.
And then you stop noticing the doors that open for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why 2020 until when lockdown ended was like a stagnation period, but like that's where I think real growth comes from, because it's not going to always be this like tangential upward curve. It's kind of like stairs.
Yeah.
You kind of like you go up and then you kind of plateau a bit and you experiment, then you go up a little bit more and then you kind of, you know, might plateau again. But as long as you keep that directional growth.
It's
so
like when you're playing guitar and you're playing, you're like, oh, I'm getting good. Oh, wait, I think I'm getting worse. And then you sleep and then you come back the next day. Or like when you're studying for a test and you can't remember and then you sleep and then you remember it the next time.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Little stairs.
Yeah, no, I have a question for you about DJing.
Ooh.
You know, so I've only been a DJ in my life. I've never been a producer, but I've been DJing for a while. And I agree with you. Like when I'm up there, I'm like, bro, I'm pretty sick, honestly.
You
like,
know when you're a good DJ.
It's like, because it's literally, I've done the 10,000 hours, you know, so it's like in DJing. So that I can really stand firm on now. But my perspective has changed a lot, you know, and I used to be really pro DJ, especially local DJ. And like, I think DJing is really important, being a good DJ, just as much as producing. But now I think kind of post-pandemic, there's a huge influx of DJs. I think a lot of people have learned how to DJ, or we're in like a very big time for DJing right now again.
Are we?
I think so. Well, from what I'm seeing.
You're busy being in your producer era.
Well,
everyone else is in their DJ era.
Yeah, no, actually, I see I'm always just like one step ahead of
everybody. Exactly. There you go.
Behind,
yeah.
Who knows?
I just see more growth or like more like opportunities for people who just DJ now, and to the point that it's actually made me value the producer more.
Actually,
yeah.
It's like even seeing that on TikTok, like the amount of people that are just getting like super big, making like crazy mashups.
Just mashups, yeah.
So I think that is one
sometimes
of the big
bad mashups, and then they go viral too. Honestly, let's be real.
But I was just interested to get your perspective, because you basically you mentioned the TikTok thing. I think that's a huge part of it, but yeah, I mean, like, I think that I value producers a lot more now. I mean, not to turn my back on my DJ kin.
On your people.
But I just, like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like now DJing is so accessible that, like, having really good, your own music means more than ever now.
No, I think that there's different types of DJs. You have people like Wookie, right, who just makes like the most insane edits every single day, and those work on TikTok. Like they go off, and he's an incredible DJ and incredible producer.
Yeah.
You have people that can do both. I don't know. For me, what like makes DJing so special is the catalog of music that you bring to the table.
Yeah.
Like you can be good technically. You can be playing all of the hits that like people are like on like the Beatport top, whatever. But that's not going to make you stand out. That's not going to make people remember you. And they're not going to be like trying to find, I want people to be able to like looking up for years trying to find the songs that I'm putting out. Yeah. And with a woman comes into a room, there was one person that for years, they would always hit me up trying to figure out what it was called. And I was like, that's why I kept hitting my head. I was like always trying to find it too.
Yeah.
Nice.
But
yeah.
I don't know. I used to think that like there was a bigger separation. Like the producers were supposed to make the records. The DJs had the means to play it, and they were going to play the good ones. And like then the producer had their big uprise, and They became superstars, and now like producers are called DJs.
Right.
Which, they go hand in hand. DJing's like not hard, but if you have good taste and you like have the catalog, then I don't know. I think anyone can kind of do it.
Yeah. It's just a lot more subjective. Yeah. Anyway,
No,
finish your thought.
Keep going.
No, because I agree with you. I agree with
I
you.
feel about DJs and producers.
Yeah. Well,
I hate them all.
You're like, I'm the best. Everyone else sucks. That's how I feel.
Just me and my acoustic guitar going crazy. Okay, so I think the biggest like thing that's occurred is DJs used to play in soft ticket rooms. That was like, you could just be a DJ and you could be getting hired by a club, not because of your social media following, but because you were going to guarantee that everybody that was in the room was going to stay in the room, keep drinking, keep having a good time. Like, that's kind of what the job was until the producer thing happened. Yeah. And now everything is all hard tickets. Yeah. And that's another huge thing that makes like the barrier to entry even harder, because you can't just be like, going to club, like trying out different rooms, like showing off your skills. Like, you really have to be the person that's selling the tickets. Yeah. And it is not easy to sell tickets unless you like have a lot of hype around you. Like at that time, like it's not easy to sell tickets, and it's not easy to feel like you're not being annoying, like pushing it down everyone's throats on social media. Like, so that's kind of my only beef with the whole producers turning into superstar DJs, is that there's no more soft ticket rooms.
Yeah, stakes are higher right out the gate.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, okay, I love that.
Chad likes your thought.
Hell yeah. Let's go. I swear I have thoughts.
That was great. Yeah.
Well, I also wanted to ask about, speaking of DJs and everything, I saw on your Instagram you were talking about how this is like the first time that you have so much of your own original music in your DJ sets. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Being my own label head means that I get to put out music whenever I want. So that's cool, because before, anytime that I'd be working with another record label, I love working with the label. I love the song, love making it. But by the time it comes out, like 6 months to a year later, I'm so over it. Like, I'm not interested or excited in that anymore. I've already moved on. I'm doing better things. So like, being my own label head and being able to kind of just throw things out whenever I want to has been kind of like a big like exciting part. So now I'm actually playing all the songs that I like at the time that I'm excited about them, which I think translates to the crowd. Because if I'm having fun, they're having fun. Yeah. And yeah, it's cool. And I'm also kind of like making things that are all can live in like the same world. So it makes it easier, and they're all electronic songs. They're not like indie songs this time. So that's also easy. That's why I started a band, though, is because before I was making, I was making indie music because I was like, I don't know, I just really wanted to go deep and figure out like, who am I as like an artist outside of like rave, outside of everything.
But are you happy that you went through that experience?
Yeah, no, 100%. It was like the biggest growing curve for me in my entire career, guaranteed. But and it's the same thing with the DJing, coming back to it, I was like, okay, now I'm ready to like go full force into electronic music, and I have this new layer of confidence that I didn't have before. I feel like I know what I'm doing now. So
no, it's cool, because I feel like hearing you talk about your own journey with it, in my head, I'm like making the joke of like, it's almost like Infinity Stones of like, you've gotten the DJ one, now you're getting the producer one, and you're like, I've got them all now, and the label head one. Yeah, exactly.
Got my promoter stone.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, what's my next stone?
Stand-up comedy is,
a TikTok star stone. There you go. I think you're on your way for that one.
That's good.
Oh no, I don't want. I'm scared. They're scary.
That one's a scary one for
sure.
Those
comments are crazy.
Yeah.
The hardest stone to obtain.
The hardest. You guys got that stone.
Oh my gosh.
You got that stone so good.
Zero
Shout out
to
to
do
Kushan.
with it.
He's got that stone.
He's got that stone.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming through, and was there anything that you wanted to share, like with people listening right now, that to discover that
you're going on tour?
I'm on tour.
You're on tour.
I am on tour. I'm a weekend warrior through the United States and through Toronto or Montreal. Yeah, United States and Montreal.
Shout out Montreal.
Shout out Montreal this fall. Please come to my show.
What can people expect at the show?
All of the new music that I've been putting out. They can expect that. They can expect a lot of music that hasn't been put out that I have coming up soon. A lot of house, techno, drum and bass, dance, music, you know.
Are you tossing any happy hardcore in there nowadays?
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, hell
I
yeah.
actually have a few. I have so many demos right now, and I have some psycho ones that I've been playing.
Oh my gosh.
I made a remix actually for my friend Dove Armitage. Her EP just came out last week. Shout out Dove. I have a remix of one of her songs that I'm really excited about. That is also very like happy hardcore adjacent.
Wow.
But I don't know when that comes out, so
I do love that too, that you were always writing for happy hardcore, and here we are in the era of speedcore.
crazy.
Yeah,
it's so
always
fun.
one step ahead. Maybe 5 steps ahead, honestly.
I was like this tall when I was full arms candy.
Yeah, exactly.
Fist pumping.
You knew.
Headhunters.
You
Let's
were
go.
ahead.
She discovered Brownies Lemonade, so you know.
I discovered Brownies
That was
and
it.
Lemonade. He
It's
said
like I made all
He said
of
it, not
this.
me.
We'll clip that. Well, thank
I'm
you
getting
so
investor shares. It's gonna be great.
Equity on the back end. Thank you so much for coming through. That was awesome.
Yes, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, and thank you to Jose on the ones and twos.
Shout out Jose.
Icon Collective Music Production School. This beautiful setup, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.